Hello, I'm Russell Haythorn with Denver 7 and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a ballot issue forum in anticipation of the general election coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. Among the numerous amendment and ordinance questions on this year's ballot is Proposition 118. This measure asks voters if the state should require employers to provide 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave for many Colorado workers, plus an additional 4 weeks in cases of complications. The leave could be used for childbirth and other family situations. Our format for the forum is a basic debate outline with opening and closing statements, cross-examination, and will include responses to questions submitted by the debate organizers. Let's begin by meeting the participants who will present both the pros and cons of Proposition 118. Beginning to my right is Senator Faith Winter, who represents Colorado's 24th district, which covers the northern suburbs of Denver and Adams County. She will be speaking in favor of Proposition 118. And to my left is Lauren Grosh, Partner and Chief Marketing Officer of Sky Blue Builders, and she will be arguing against Proposition 118. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
We will begin with 1 minute opening statements, and Senator Winter, you're the lucky one who begins with an opening statement first. So you have 1 minute.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to talk about 118. At some point, nearly every single person in Colorado is going to need paid family leave. And this is about birth of new children, but it's about so much more. It's about when you yourself are facing cancer. It's also about if you have a heart attack or taking care of a dying parent. Right now, 1 out of 4 moms goes back to work 2 weeks after giving birth. Imagine the last mom you know that gave birth and how she was 2 weeks later. Imagine the last cancer patient that you brought a casserole for and how they were. Now imagine deciding to skip the therapy you need in order to put food on the table. 4 out of 5 Coloradans don't have paid family leave. We can do better, and we can do that by a shared responsibility of employees and employers paying in for shared insurance so that no one in Colorado has to make the decision between a paycheck and taking care of their health.
Senator, thank you very much for that opening statement. And now, Lauren, it's your turn to deliver your opening statement.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Senator Winters, for allowing me to debate you today. There is no... I'm so sorry. This is my first time at a debate, so I apologize for that. As a woman and a mother of 2 and a small business owner, I understand the fundamental rights and the responsibility as a small business owner to provide for your employees. We have done so much for our employees out there right now, and this bill to us is a $1.3 billion tax that's placed not only on ourselves, but also on our employees. This is something that survey after survey has shown to go bankrupt within 2 years of the program. For us as a small business, we go above and beyond. We understand the importance of our employees. They are the backbone of our company, and we do everything in our right to provide for them. For instance, one of our employees, she was just had a child. She had 3 weeks of maternity leave, and we provided another 2 weeks on top of that. So we go above and beyond for our employees.
Lauren, thank you very much for that opening statement. Senator, thank you for yours. And now, Lauren, this is the rebuttal portion of the debate, so you have the floor first. You have 1 minute to offer a rebuttal to the senator's opening statement.
Well, and I think as a small business owner, creating a tax a tax situation in which it's $1.3 billion in taxes that's shared not only amongst ourselves but with our employees is a burden right now on a very uncertain time. Especially when you're seeing 4,000 restaurants close daily, $660 million lost in the hospitality industry. This is a burden that's not being only placed upon ourselves but also upon our employees. I know as a small business owner, we have gone above and beyond for a lot of our employees. Another situation that wouldn't really be covered under the FMLA would be a situation in which we provide benefits or actually paid for funeral expenses of one of our employees. All we're asking for as a small business owner is to have the agility and to have the flexibility in uncertain times to provide for our employees.
Lauren, thank you very much. And now, Senator Winter, your opportunity to offer a rebuttal to Lauren's opening statement.
Great, thank you. First of all, let's talk about the actual burden. So most families in Colorado don't even have $500 in their savings account to handle something that happens, like a medical expense or need for time off. And on average, this costs $3.83 a week for the employee and the employers. That's less than a cup of coffee. To be able to go to sleep at night and know that if you wake up and you're in a car accident and you have to go to the hospital, you're not going to lose your job. And we care about small businesses. Like Catherine, who owns Merlin Instruments. She worked hard to buy this insurance on the private market. It was hard to find. It was expensive. It was unpredictable. This is a predictable expense, and no employer actually wants to tell their worker, I'm sorry, you have to come back from chemotherapy. I just can't afford to pay you. For $3.83, this is a peace of mind for workers and peace of mind for small business owners.
Senator, thank you very much. And thank you again, Lauren. And now we're moving on to the cross-examination portion of this debate. This is round one. For cross-examination, we'll move back to Senator Winter. And Senator, you can ask Lauren a question. And then Lauren, you will have 1 minute to reply.
Great. Thanks for being here, Lauren, and thanks for working so hard at your small business. Currently, 1 out of 4 moms are going back to work just 2 weeks after giving birth. Cancer patients are delaying their second round of chemotherapy in order to keep food on the table. And as you mentioned, you as a business owner are working very hard, but on an aggregate, we still have 25% of moms going back to work after 2 weeks. Is that acceptable? The current system isn't supporting working families.
Lauren.
Yes. So in actuality, we did the statistics in terms of we're a small business. We employ 45 employees currently. This would be $170,000. That would be a direct impact on our business. When we're sitting there and we have to debate how are we going to pay for these expenses, that would equate to 3 jobs. Right now, when unemployment rates are at the highest in decades, this is a scenario in which we cannot offer up 3 employees to go out into, to burden the system with unemployment. What we're really looking for right now is creating jobs, finding a situation in which we can provide for our employees, give them benefits that are above and beyond what we expect. 80% of small businesses provide benefits, paid benefits to their employees. They might not be mandated by a $1.3 billion tax, but they are being provided to employees across the board.
So the question
Lauren, thank
was,
you, and thank you. You'll have an opportunity, Senator. Lauren, it's your turn now. We're in round one of cross-examination, and now you can ask a question of the senator, and then Senator, you can respond.
So, Senator, the numbers simply don't add up. By several measures, this program is destined for bankruptcy. Why not sit down with your colleagues, members of the business community, and individuals like myself, who is with Hispanic Contractors of Colorado, Denver Chamber of Commerce, and numerous other organizations to develop a program that works for Colorado and Governor Polis can support?
Senator.
Absolutely. I have sat down in hours of meetings for 6 years. And actually, the business community has paid millions of dollars in lobbying to make sure this didn't happen. The last time we ran this bill, a Colorado Sun article reported that 211 lobbyists, which is nearly half the lobby, were paid by business interest to make sure this died. This is incredibly popular outside the building. So to ask me to sit down after 6 years of sitting down in hours and hours is frustrating when we know workers can't wait anymore. We know that Folks are going back to work 2 weeks after giving birth and skipping cancer treatments. We can do better as Coloradans. And this is a statutory amendment. If things aren't implemented correctly, the legislature can still weigh in. We can still work on this. And my door has always been open and is open to make sure that we do this correctly and we do right by Colorado.
Ladies, thank you. Moving on to cross-examination round 2. I believe we started with the senator. So, Lauren, it's your turn to start with another question to the senator. And Senator, again, you'll have 1 minute to respond.
Okay. Senator Winters, do you believe that a $1.3 billion tax placed on the backs of all employees and employers is good during a time when our economy is struggling? As I stated before, over 4,000 restaurants have closed. Over $660 million has been lost in revenues to the lodging industry, and unemployment rate is higher than ever. Is now really the time for such a huge payroll tax increase?
Senator.
First of all, I find it extremely disingenuous to call it a payroll tax. The Colorado Supreme Court has ruled numerous times that this is not a payroll tax, and I trust the Supreme Court to make that decision. Second of all, this doesn't get implemented until 2023. We're giving time for the recovery. As I've mentioned before, we've worked on this in the past. And even when the economy was booming, the business community said, now is not the time. Now is not the time to take care of workers. And if in a pandemic where people are nervous about contacting COVID and having a quarantine for 14 days and losing their payroll, now is absolutely the time. This is the best way to do so. And for an average of $3.83 a week, this is the most affordable way to do this.
Senator, thank you. And now it's your turn to ask another question of Lauren during cross-examination. We're in round 2.
Great. Thank you so much. You've mentioned many studies. Actually, I think only one study shows that this isn't solvent. And we put together a bipartisan expert panel that did an actuarial study. They got 3 expert reports that all said this is solvent. 8 other states all over the country have successfully implemented this program. So successful, in fact, that in New Jersey, they had to pass a law to make sure their family fund wasn't rated by other government entities. Every other country in the world, other than Papua New Guinea, has figured this out. Why do you think Colorado can't do this?
Senator, thank you. Lauren, your turn.
That is a great question. One thing that I like to refer back to is the Washington state. They just implemented their own family paid medical leave, and they right now are so overburdened by the system. They have the same sort of benefits that is outlined in Proposition 118. So they do provide for 12 to 14 weeks. They have a 90% wage rate, and the utilization rate is about the same as Colorado or what is being predicted. Right now, there's 33,000 claims. They're taking 10 weeks in order to put through those claims. And now they're also increasing the costs for the administrative processing. So right now, you do reference some other, some other states that are actually, beneficial. I find it interesting that from last week's analysis that $3.2 million was generated in campaign funding from New York and DC when only $100,000 was actually collected in Colorado.
Lauren, thank you for that. We're continuing with cross-examination here discussing Proposition 118, which is on the November ballot coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. And Senator, now we begin round 3 with you. Another question for Lauren.
Absolutely. Colorado prides itself on being a small business state. And the current system we have now gives large companies an advantage over small companies. I mentioned Catherine, who had 3 employees. I myself had a nonprofit. My single worker got pregnant. I paid $5,000 to make sure that she had leave. $3.83 a week would have been a far better deal for me. It's almost impossible for small businesses to buy this on the private market. Small businesses say that it's expensive, hard to integrate, and unpredictable. Shouldn't we be taking the burden off of businesses to provide this benefit and give them the opportunity to compete against large businesses like Google and Amazon?
Senator, thanks for the question. Lauren, your turn to respond.
Well, in speaking to the small business community, especially at Hispanic Contractors of Colorado, I've spoke to a lot of my colleagues, and it's very troubling about what's going to occur to their business. Take, for instance, Erin Hartman, who's from Hot Shot Supplies. She has 9 employees currently. She wants to grow and develop her company and add another employee. But with this proposition, all it would do is to hinder those employees from being taken on. In addition, I've spoken to James Martinez from Martinez Testing. He has 45 employees, and this tax would essentially cost him $165,000, where that money he thought would be better suited for construction or transportation related projects. So right now, what we need to be doing is creating jobs. And this is actually just hindering small businesses from creating the jobs that are needed to happen.
Ladies, thank you very much for this healthy debate. We're discussing Proposition 118, and Lauren, we're in cross-examination, round 3, and now it's your turn to ask another question of Senator Winter.
Senator Winter, it has been said that 80% of the Coloradans are in desperate need of paid family medical leave. However, the actuarial study that this initiative was built on says only 5% of Coloradoans are going to use the benefit. And Pinnacle Assurance model estimated 10% this last season. How is it the need so great, but the usage rate so small?
Senator.
Not everyone faces an extraordinary life event every single year. And we're not saying that 20% of our workers are going to need this every year. I don't have a baby every year, I don't have cancer every year, and I certainly don't plan to. We know that at some point in their lifetime, most Coloradans are going to need this. Now, you mentioned Washington State. They're at about a 4% usage rate. Now, Rhode Island's an outlier, but they have a much older population, and they also double count their numbers. So if you are a mother taking it, then that counts as both paid medical leave and paid family leave. I don't understand why the No on 118 campaign thinks Colorado usage rates will be so extremely out of line. And yes, I might only need it once for when I have cancer once in a decade, but when I need it, that's going to be the lifeline for my family. That's going to mean I don't lose my house. That's going to mean that I can still feed my children. And so yes, we believe those usage rates are accurate, and there's many studies that show that aligns with the other 8 states that have passed it.
Senator, thank you. Cross-examination, round 4. Lauren, again, your turn to ask one last question of Senator Winter.
If, as predicted, the program becomes insolvent, do you support higher taxes or less benefits?
It was, again, one study that predicts it's going to be insolvent. We have numerous other bipartisan studies that show it'll be solvent. Our own task force showed it would be solvent. 8 other states are solvent, and that's what lawmakers do. We're actually hired to make the hard decisions, and we've made hard decisions on other benefits, and we'll make that decision. However, I don't think that Colorado is going to be out of alignment compared to the other states.
Senator, thank you. Senator, you can now ask one final question of Lauren.
The people that need paid family leave are the least likely to have it. All the research shows that very small percentages of low-income workers, of women of color, have paid family leave. For example, April is a home health care worker. Her son has stage 4 cancer, and she can't be there with him right now while he's going through cancer treatment because she can't afford to lose her job. Is this disparity acceptable?
Lauren.
First off, as a small business owner, I can feel for her pain, the agony that she's going through. We're not trying to say that a paid benefit leave isn't something that's needed. All we're saying is that there's certain issues that are currently on the table with this $1.3 billion tax that small business wasn't really allowed to contribute or voice their opinion. I know 45 organizations do not support this, everything from the farm bureaus all the way to the Chamber of Commerce. So there's been numerous small businesses that are reaching out, talking about the fact that something is needed, but this is not the right solution. We want something that'll stay along and it'll be with us for a while. And also in regards to benefits, studies have shown that with benefits increasing, there is more of a utilization rate. So that's where our concern lies.
Ladies, we appreciate the constructive conversation, truly. And now we're moving on to the card questions submitted by the forum organizers. And Senator, you'll answer first to this first question. Government serves as a risk-sharing mechanism. In certain cases, our tax dollars are pooled to protect individuals and communities against unforeseen catastrophes, be they medical, environmental, or financial. Is this an appropriate function of government?
Absolutely, this is an appropriate function of government. We do everything we can to support our economy and support our small businesses. And as mentioned before, many of the small businesses I'm talking to can't afford to be a member of a chamber of commerce. They can't pay the dues. But what they do want is to not tell their waitress she has to come back to work 2 weeks after giving birth because they're working on the margins and simply can't afford it. So what government can do is come in and pool us all together. That's what government does best, is when we say, let's get all together, let's make a difference, let's all pay in a little bit, $83 a week, and do this so that no one has to make the decision to skip their chemotherapy appointment. No one has to worry that when they're in a car accident, they're going to lose their job. Government can bring us all together and give us the most affordable way to deliver this incredibly important benefit.
Senator, thank you for that. Lauren, now your turn to answer the same question. Appropriate function of government.
Well, I find it interesting that this has come up in legislative matters for the last 6 years and has not passed. Obviously, our lawmakers are looking at this legislation and seeing that there's faults. There's inaccuracies in studies. There's not enough data to support some of these programs. Right now, yes, you did state that there are 8 other states, I believe, that have this type of benefit. But if you look at it, there's only probably been 2 that have been for an ongoing basis. Right now, we're not trying to say that we don't want some sort of paid leave. What we're asking for is something that's a little bit more solvent, something that'll allow people to put in that $463 a year and know that they're going to be able to take that out. Our biggest concern as an employer is to take care of our employees. We don't want them to put into something that they can't get their benefits back from.
Lauren, thank you for that. On to question number 2 from the forum organizers. And Lauren, you'll go first on this question. And I believe you alluded to this earlier in one of your responses to the senator, but businesses with 9 or fewer employees are exempt. Is this proposition a direct disincentive to hire a 10th person? How might this impact unemployment?
Well, and that has been a major concern. So yes, I brought up that case study with Hot Shot Supplies, in which she is severely debating whether or not she can take on that 10th employee. And I also know from our perspective, we have to figure out a way to pay for this tax moving forward. The last thing we want to do is cut jobs. It's been amazing as a company to be able to sustain our employees and to actually increase our employee base during COVID. We want to put more jobs out there. And with something like this would force us to cut 3 jobs. That's 3 mouths. That's, 10 people in a family, and that's the last thing we want to do. Another thing is that we just want to have the flexibility to give to our employees. We spend so much time and energy caring. We talk about our Sky Blue family, and they are part of us. And the last thing we want to do is that employees that have been with us for 12 years is that we can't retain them due to a tax.
Thank you, Lauren. Senator, your turn to answer the same question on the question of, is this a disincentive to hire more employees?
Colorado is an entrepreneurial state. We support small businesses in a myriad of ways. And in fact, the businesses I've talked to have said, I need this to recruit the best and brightest employees because I can't compete with the larger companies that can provide these benefits, but this gives me an affordable way to do that. And in fact, the data plays out. In California, 9 out of 10 businesses said this either helped them or didn't hurt them. In Rhode Island, we did a study of specifically manufacturing fast food businesses. The majority of employers said it increased employee morale, and we talked about retention, that when we have paid family leave on the books, employees are more likely to stay in the workforce, come back, and it is much more expensive to recruit new employees and to train new employees. We need to be keeping our employees, and this is a tool for small businesses businesses to do just that.
Ladies, thank you both very much for answering the card questions. Your questions of one another were so robust and so good that I have no more time to ask card questions. So we're moving on to closing statements, and each of you will have 1 minute to offer a closing statement on Proposition 118. And we will begin in reverse order of the opening statements. So, Senator, I believe we started with you. That means Miss Lauren Grosh, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the time. What we're just trying to discuss is the fact that as a small business, this is a burden upon us, not only for ourselves, but also for our employees. You know, during uncertain times like COVID, what we're trying to do is maintain our employee base. What we don't need is a $1.3 billion tax. 45 organizations have spoken out against this. Everything from the Farm Bureau to Chambers of Commerce, as well as, other small local organizations. And what we're asking for is to come to the table and provide a solvent solution so that this can be in perpetuity. We're asking for something in which our employees can pay into and be certain that those benefits are there. We surely, as a small business, only care and love our employees and want to do the best for them, but we can't stand by something that takes out money out of their pocket for something that may or may not be there.
Lauren, thank you for that closing argument. And now, Senator, it's your turn. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Lauren. This is a solvent program. It's solvent in 8 other states. I promise you, I'm looking into the camera I'm supposed to look into right now and saying this is solvent. I've seen studies after studies, an actuarial study. I was begged for an actuarial study for years, and you know what? Came back and said, great, this is solvent. This is the lowest cost way to provide this. This is important for families. No one should have to decide between going back to work 2 weeks after giving birth, their chemotherapy appointment, taking care of themselves after a heart attack, and putting food on the table. We can solve this problem. We can come together as Coloradans and make sure that we're fixing this. And we did design this program with businesses in mind. We have exempted businesses 9 and under because those are the businesses we want to grow. But we also are making sure that small businesses have a competitive advantage to recruit the best and brightest employees. This is the time during the pandemic in Colorado to make sure that every Colorado family has access to this benefit.
Excellent job to both of you ladies. Thank you for being here. On behalf of the forum organizers, I'd like to thank you both for participating in this forum. We hope we have given you a fair look at the pros and cons about Proposition 118. Again, it asks if the state should require employers to provide 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave for many Colorado workers, plus an additional 4 weeks in cases of complications. And this includes things like childbirth and other family situations. Our thanks also to Denver Decides and its partners, which include Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation and the League of Women Voters of Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd. Let your voice be heard. Be sure to register and be sure to get out there and vote. For complete election information online, go to denverdecides.org. I'm Russell Haythorn with Denver 7. Thank you for joining us.